Julie Woods, you were speaking about the first Kansas City experiments that took place in 1970 when criminologist George Kelling, following the ideas of O.W. Wilson, experimented with three different ways of patrolling an area. O.W. Wilson's theory is that patrol units need to be constantly moving in order to reduce crime. So what Kelling did is, in one area, they didn't change anything about how it was patrolled. In another area, they took away the patrol completely. The only time police was present is when they were called. And in the other area, they doubled the patrol for that area. But the experiment failed to yield a difference in results. The statistics were nearly identical for similar crimes in every area. I'm speaking of the second Kansas City experiments that took place in the mid-90s. But y'all know y'all got to get this story, right? In October 2006, I was driving my bro Bezel to work in my 1992 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, gold paint with dark tint, talking beautiful, all right? And let the record show, I've only been to jail twice. In both times, I was driving Bezel to work. Needless to say, I have never driven Bezel to work again since this incident. I was traveling westbound on Cheyenne Avenue, crossing the intersection of Las Vegas Boulevard North. There was a Las Vegas Metro Police cruiser sitting in the southbound left turn lane on Las Vegas Boulevard. When I got to the next intersection, which was Pecos, that cruiser was behind me, and shortly after that, they flashed their lights. I pulled over just south of what used to be the CCSN parking lot. Now, I've been pulled over enough times in this Cadillac to know that the first thing I needed to do was roll down my windows with this dark tint. Puts the officers a little bit at ease. My bro Bezel was riding shotgun. My little brother Kyle was sitting behind me, and then I had my two children at the time in their car seats in the back also. When the driver approached my window, the first thing he asked me is, "Do you have anything in this vehicle that I need to know about?" Not, "Good evening." Not, "Hey, I pulled you over for such and such." Not, "Do you have a license, registration, and proof of insurance?" I responded, "Yeah. I got my pistol under my seat." He, meaning Bezel, got his pistol under his seat. The officer said, "Okay," asked us to step out the vehicle. His partner got Bezel out the vehicle, said something on his radio, walked us to the front of their cruiser, put us in cuffs. They take my little bro Kyle, put him in the back of the cruiser, uncuffed, right? And then they proceed to tear my car the fuck up, looking for something other than the two pistols that I already told them I have in the car. It's dark, it's cold outside, and my daughters, who are a year and a half and 3 months old at the time, are still sitting in the car, but now exposed to the elements. This is infuriating me. Another thing that's infuriating me is the fact that you have more police cars hitting the corner as if it's a bank robbery somewhere. I mean, we standing on the front of the car, handcuffed, like, damn, what the fuck going on? We think it's some shit going on around us because of the way these police cars is hitting the corner. They pull up to us. At this point, we started calling those officers every insult we could think of. What started as a cooperative stop with one unit ended with 3 Metro cruisers, 2 Metro motorcycles, and 1 North Las Vegas cruiser. And that North Las Vegas officer was the last to arrive. He was a black, short, bald-headed fuck who arrived poking his chest out. He went to the back of that cruiser, popped that trunk, and pulled out a binder thicker than them old phone books. The Metro officers went over there, got their little pen and pad, started writing something down. We had been there for maybe 30 to 45 minutes. And they didn't even have a charge to stick us with up until that point. I had a red flag on my Cadillac door because the armrest was all scratched up. They seen that and started taking pictures of me for the gang book. I'll speak on the significance of that in a different video. They put me and Bezel in different cruisers and took us both to Northtown. As my wife would later tell me, they called her and told her that she had 30 minutes to get there before they took our daughters to Child Haven. They towed my car because they said it didn't have insurance. As soon as she got there, she went to the glove box and showed them that it had insurance. They said it was too late because the tow truck had already been called. We were booked in North Las Vegas Detention Center on charges of deadly weapon in the vehicle. There are a couple details that are important for you to understand about this story. For one, we were pulled over by Metro. Metro patrols City of Las Vegas and unincorporated Clark County. Although because they're a county, they can pull you over anywhere. But it's important to know that because the areas they patrol, it is 100% legal for you to ride around with your blower on your lap if you wanted to. When I crossed the intersection of Cheyenne and Pecos, I crossed into North Las Vegas. North Las Vegas circumvented Nevada law by not banning guns specifically, but by including guns as deadly weapons in the vehicle. In order to transport a gun in North Las Vegas, you had to make it undeadly. You did that by putting your magazine in the trunk, your gun in the glove box, or vice versa. But the most important detail to remember as it pertains to the purpose of this essay is that police cruiser was in the southbound left turn lane on Las Vegas Boulevard, meaning they were intending to go east on Cheyenne or make a U-turn and go north on Las Vegas Boulevard. I was heading west on Cheyenne, meaning they made a right turn out of the left turn lane to get behind me. I would go to court on this issue twice. The first time, they didn't even have the case. The second time, Van Landshut threw it out, having something to do with the paperwork not being filled out properly and, certain details of the case files. I call it divine intervention. That was Mr. 180, and I didn't have 180 to sit down. He told me to be careful when I'm passing through jurisdictions because every city has different laws. Told me that if I had an issue getting my pistol back, come back and see him, and he's going to write me a personal letter instructing them to release it to me. But the one detail that I saved to the end was the reason those officers made a right turn out of the left turn lane to get behind me in the first place. My Cadillac DeVille did not have a light that illuminates the license plate. Why is that important? Well, that brings us to the second Kansas City experiments. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Talking to Strangers. In chapter 11 of the audio version titled Case Study, The Kansas City Experiments, he details both experiments. I'll summarize the second the same as I did the first. In 1990, Kansas City, Missouri had a homicide rate 3 times the national average, and that rate would increase over the next 4 years. A criminologist named Lawrence Sherman was brought in to see how they could reduce violent crime. He targeted the worst area in the city. His main objective was to get the guns off the streets in that area. The first method he put in place was to send a pair of officers to every doorstep, 858 in total, to talk to the residents in a neighborly manner. The residents were receptive of this presence, and a hotline was established where they could call in to report gun sightings. But it wasn't effective because the law-abiding citizens of that area never left their homes, so they didn't see anything. Only 2 calls were made to that hotline, and neither call was for guns in that district. The next approach, believe it or not, was to try and detect a person concealing a firearm simply by the way they walked. This was instructed by and based on the theories of NYPD's Robert T. Gallagher, who over an 18-year span was rumored to have disarmed 1,200 people with this method. Gladwell spoke of how ABC's 2020 set up cameras on 2 separate occasions to catch this technique in action. Not a single firearm was recovered. But the last tactic that Sherman implemented was to use traffic code to pull cars over for any reason and initiate vehicle searches. This produced massive results. Guns were taken off the street, violent crime went down, and the homicide rate was cut in half. The New York Times ran an article on this, and the rest of the nation took notice. Nearly every major department across the nation began practicing the same, even in areas where violent crime wasn't rampant, and in cities where citizens being fully armed was legal. Y'all remember when I was talking about precedents being set? It's important to understand this precedent because the next chapter in this book is called Sandra Bland. Gladwell continues to explain how the police tactics introduced in Kansas City in the mid-90s, the police tactics used on me in October in 2006, were the same tactics used frequently by Officer Brian Encinia, the officer that pulled Bland over. He also explained how KC Mo is much different than Prairie View, Texas, and how the policing tactics introduced for a violent area of a major city should not be the policing tactics used in a small college town. But that's policing as we know it today. And these tactics are used even when you're not in traffic. At least they've been used on me. I told y'all, I've been stopped by police over 20, 25 times in my younger days. And I've been stopped more times walking than I have driving. I remember walking with Bezel, right? Obviously. And I think our partner Eddie was with us that day. In fact, we was walking up Arville to Sahara so that we could jump on that Sahara bus and head to the east side because Eddie stayed on the east side back then, right? And as we approach in Penwood, we already see the two officers sitting on bicycles in the grass at Clark. We already knew they was gonna mess with us. We knew that. So we went to the intersection, made sure we used the crosswalk, made sure we didn't start walking until we saw the walk signal. They pulled up on us and told us that we had not fully gotten across the street before the don't walk signal had stopped blinking. Their reason for pulling us over was impeding the flow of traffic. We couldn't do nothing but laugh at them. They sat us on that curb and started going through our shit. I'm sitting on the curb in my boxers because they digging so hard in my pants. They knocking my pants off my ass, looking for shit that ain't there. I had all my clothes in my book bag for the weekend because I spent the entire weekend at Bezel House. And if you know me, my nickname was Aunt Fresh. I was going to be fresh over anything else. I had on some snakeskin 11s, you know, them white and blues. Had on a Garnett Timberwolves jersey. And every piece of clothing in my book bag matched my shoes. They start going through my book bag. Oh, you sure do got a lot of blue in here. Where you from? Donna? Obviously, based off of what I told y'all in the last video, y'all can understand why we started laughing again. I said, no, I don't bang. They said, we gonna call you Little Boy Blue. That was the first time they put me in the gang book. They put me in as a Crip. I was 16 years old. When I was 19, I got pulled over, literally just standing at a bus stop on Valley View in Washington, in my work clothes, waiting on the same bus that I took the same time every night. Talking about, yeah, we got a report of somebody snooping through the windows. I say, yeah, they must have had on a full cook uniform, huh? But because it's Sunday, I'm gonna end this on a positive note. Shortly after I got my Suburban in 2001, I packed it up to take my family down for a day trip on the river at Willow Beach. And this is after the pandemic, so you couldn't get into the DMV to take care of things the way you used to. So what was normally a 30-day moving permit was now issued for 90 days because you needed all of them 90 days to even get through an appointment. And I hated this because the private seller moving permits were small and they go in the front windshield on the passenger side, meaning that there's no tags in the back of your vehicle. So anytime the police get behind you, they're going to pull you over. So I was approaching the intersection of Mountain Vista and DI, and there was a cop already sitting there, you know, trying to catch people, you know, running what used to be that stop sign there. And as I pull up, we're facing the same direction, so he can see that I don't have any tags in the back of this truck. I proceed across the intersection. He goes right behind me. He tells me the reason for the stop, which is obvious to me, and he asks for my insurance. And obviously the insurance is digital now. So as I'm pulling this up on Geico, he's, you know, doing a VIN inspection, then going around to the front passenger side to make sure the VIN matches, you know, that of the truck. Then he comes back over and takes a look at the insurance. Now, obviously, since that 2006 incident, I get all my stuff ready. So I already have my license ready. He looks at the insurance and I'm like, here, you need this? He says, no, my probable cause has ended. You have a good day. And just as I did then, I'm about to drive off now. Y'all have a good day. At least we know it's one out there doing their job properly.
Mr. Hardy, you're charged with possession of marijuana. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. Shh. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you, sir.
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
On November 22nd, 2024, the officer observed the defendant's vehicle parked more than 18 inches from a curb on a public roadway in the right lane of a two-way road in Harris County, Texas.
He was doing what that was wrong?
So he was parked more than 18 inches from the curb on the right lane of a two-way road. So he was out.
On earth are you going to know that you're parking more than 18 inches? What time of day or night was this?
Your Honor.
Is it parking while black now?
At 4 in the morning,
And Your Honor, I
4 in the
found,
morning.
4:30 a.m.
And you can delineate at 4 in the morning that parking 18 inches from a curb.
and I found the regulation, the statute in the
Mm-mm.
transportation code where it says you have to park within 18 inches.
At 4 in the morning, you can tell.
Your Honor, the officer was,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't think so. All right, I'm going to find no probable cause.